Hello and welcome to Beyond Business, the program where we uncover the latest trends in the global economy. Today we're honing in on farming, and we're asking if farmers here in France are carrying a heavier burden than their Spanish peers. Some in the agricultural sector say French rules are much tougher when it comes to pesticides. It may be good for the consumer, but it leaves farmers here in France in limbo. Some try to flout the rules, but those who abide by the regulation say it's harder to compete. We'll talk more about that in the studio in just a moment, but we'll start with this report.
So here we've come to get topaz, and we've got this product, cantarell. It's also made of penconazole, but it is not officially recognized in France.
This man can't believe he's handling these products. He works in the pesticide industry, and although he's asked to remain anonymous, he wants to blow the whistle on a Spanish company. It's selling products which are illegal in France. Cazorla's located to the north of Barcelona. Farmers and winemakers from the south of France are regular clients, largely down to the prices which undercut their French equivalents. Winemakers who stock up here can lower their production costs and widen their profit margins. Those who toe the line find themselves economically penalized by the competition. In the Arjol vineyards near Montpellier, they promote ethical winemaking. Protecting the vines is expensive, but for them it's out of the question to stock up in Spain.
My first goal is not to save money, but to use the appropriate products. They're quite expensive too. They can be costly because these pesticides have very specific conditions for use. They're industrial pesticides. You can't just use them like any old household product.
When it comes to pesticides, all the necessary precautions have been taken.
These products were bought from a distributor in France. They comply to all the security regulations. The instructions are written on the packaging in French, with the correct dose, warnings, and the concentration that they advise you to use.
Good working practices that are also applied 200 kilometers away in the Anne de Joyeuse winery. The 500 winemakers working here have to adhere to strict regulations with regards to pesticides, something that's non-negotiable if they want to keep their reputation as an environmentally friendly enterprise.
What we're trying to say to our winemakers is that you have to work. You can't go down that road where you're buying illegal products, even if they are a little cheaper.
Yet for these young farmers in the Gard region, it's a different story. Their unions say the problem is a lack of coherence when it comes to European legislation.
Based on these European rules, each country can apply more and more regulations. And in France, we're the worst for that. We're always putting more restrictions on ourselves than our neighbors do. Among these products, you've got things that are not authorized in France, but that are perfectly legal elsewhere.
This is the crux of the problem. The Spanish company Cazorla sells products that aren't authorized in France with different chemical formulas. Using a hidden camera, we went looking for topaz and vertimec. These pesticides are authorized in France. What we ended up with were counterfeit equivalents. When we got to the checkout, it was all explained in French.
C'est pas vrai topaz, c'est un topaz que nous avons homologué en France. C'est avec un autre nom.
Et le vertimec, c'est pareil, quoi. C'est pas...
Oui, le vertimec, c'est la même composition. Le nom, c'est de l'usine de chez nous. Et pour le moment, on l'a pas homologué encore en France.
Not recognized, and thus not authorized either. French authorities have been aware of this illicit market for years now, but they've always turned a blind eye, and in doing so, they're flouting both safety and economic regulations.
Okay, joining us now for more on this issue of pesticides is Jean-Charles Bouquet. He's the director of the French Industries Union for the Protection of Plants. That's an organization that brings together 19 companies that produce and market pesticides here in France. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Hello. First of all, let me just make clear that we have contacted the Spanish company that we saw selling pesticides here towards the end of this report, and they insist that they did nothing wrong. But if we look at the wider issue here, do you agree that French farmers have to abide by much tougher regulation than, for instance, their Spanish counterparts?
It's true that in the last years, because of the social pressure, the regulation has been especially tough in France. We had the Grenelle de l'Environnement, who in fact asked a lot of efforts and
this was basically a giant summit on green issues and environmental issues.
Exactly. And so as a consequence of that, some product has been banned in France, which are still available in some neighboring countries. But in spite of that, we have collectively, farmers, distributors, and we are suppliers, respect the regulation. And what is currently done in company like Cazorla is what we call counterfeit, because they are selling product to farmers, and those products, they don't have a registration in France. In France, if a product doesn't have a registration, it's a forbidden product. You are making fraud, and you can go to jail.
Mm-hmm. But just to be clear, this Spanish company, it's not breaking any Spanish rules. It's selling pesticides in Spain, after all, and they're not really violating the rules here in France by doing that.
But apparently they mentioned that they are manufacturing product and selling those products to French farmers, knowing that they are not authorized in France. Mm-hmm. So this is, for us, a non-responsible attitude. And what we are currently doing, not only in France, but at the European level, is really trying to enforce the regulation, make the life of those counterfeiters tough, working with the control bodies in the harbors, at the custom, and really pushing this message: know your customer, know your supplier. I think every one of us in the chain has really to be responsible and know exactly to whom is buying a product, to whom is selling the product, to be sure that the product are highly regulated. They got the registration, which is the only way to secure either the crop or the safety of the farmer, the safety of the consumer, and also to respect the environment.
But it sounds as if you're saying that French authorities haven't lived up to their part of the bargain. They're not actually enforcing their own rules. Is that the case in your view?
In fact, French authorities have made some control. There are some legal action currently taking place. As always, this takes too much time. What is missing today is really a significant amount of resources, physical bodies in the fields to increase the control and really to secure the market access and the utilization of our products.
Now, let's bring in the point that you made yourself before, that this is a European problem. We don't see the same rules in European countries, and that sounds a little bit strange, seeing that we're supposed to have a common market here within the European Union.
This is really coming very soon, because the new regulation is in place since June this year, and based on this rule, this regulation, the rules will be the same for all the countries, especially regarding this trade, parallel trade, where product can flow between the countries to respect the European spirit, but with very precise regulation. For example, what we want is to, for example, stop the possibility of repacking, because what happens often is that behind an official registration of parallel product, you can have repacking possibilities somewhere in the garage, mm-hmm. and then you have a wrong product, which is not the product which is supposed to be on the label. So making repacking forbidden or known in very specific condition, it's one way to secure more in fact, this parallel trade.
Is it possible to monetize this problem? How much money are French farmers losing out on because of it? And how much money are you within the pesticide industry here in France losing out because of this problem?
At the pesticide level, in pesticide industry level in Europe, first it's very tough to know exactly because those guys are very well organized. But we estimate that between 5 and 10% of the total value of the European market, which is roughly a 10 billion euros market, is at stake because of this counterfeit. In France, we are more or less in the same range, knowing that in the south, on grapes especially, we have seen in the south of France, this can reach sometimes 15 to 20%. So it's really a problem, and we encourage everybody, authorities, distributors, ourselves, farmers, to work together to really secure and to stop the business of these wrong and counterfeit products.
Just to look at this from a consumer perspective, I perhaps would say that it sounds pretty good that French farming has higher standards than, for instance, Spanish farming. In times like these, when consumers are more and more turning towards ecologically produced products, as I say, isn't this a blessing in disguise to a certain extent?
It's not so easy because, of course, pesticides are used to increase the yield and to fight disease or insects. And in some crops today, because of the tough regulation, French farmers are missing product, are missing tools. So their yield is decreasing. So for the consumer, in one side, the good thing is that it's greener, it's safer, but on the other side, the cost of the goods, some vegetables will not be available. So we will have to import them from locally Europe, but in most cases from very far East or South America. So this will increase the cost. Right. So at the end, there is a negative impact also at the consumer level.
Okay, two sides to that coin. Jean-Charles Bouquet, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. And with that, we're going to wrap up the program. Thanks for watching France 24.
Thank you.